Hey everyone. Hi Scorpio. So, welcome to Opal Oracle if you're new. If you're returning, okay, it wanted me to show, okay. If you're returning, nice to have you back. Let's see, these two stayed on the ground. We have the Two of Cups and the High Priestess. This is cedar. I feel the need to... I found this on the ground. I don't kill plants. I don't generally harvest them. If I don't have to, right? And if I do, I only use what is necessary. Okay? If I can find it without... You can find something without killing it. You can have something without killing it. That's really important, right? Look how beautiful that looks. So, something to think about, I guess. Scorpio. So this card was on the bottom and actually stopped me earlier, this Three of Swords, when when the sage hit my middle finger, okay, on my left hand. So, I heard, whose hands do you have? I just got really hot, too. My body temperature just went up. Scorpio. Got the Wheel of Fortune. Up the ladder, right? Let's do two more for Scorpio. That one. The Empress. These cards do contain nudity if you think that that is a negative thing. And we have Ten of Swords. I want to clarify on that just because. Actually, no, it already told me what I need to know. All the information's there, right? Eight of Pentacles on the bottom. All the information is always right there in front of you, right? It's just like, how do you utilize the tools that you already have, right? So, let's get a little closer. It's hot. So, let's see here. How do you gain without destroying? Now, we've talked about this. You are death, right? So you're always changing, you're always growing and learning new things. You're shedding other parts of yourself, right? Like, you are the epitome of autumn, right? You are actually the... And even if you live closer to the Antarctic, September, in a sense, still Scorpio overall represents transformation, right? So now when we're talking about transforming, you have to sort of kill something off to have something grow, right? Like kind of that, like when there's a natural forest fire, what happens is I guess all that carbon goes back into the earth and turns into new fertile soil, right? For something, again, new to grow. Now, when you're changing, say you get to a position that you really like, I feel like there's a little bit of a mental worry in relation to how do I keep the parts of myself that I really enjoy and still continue to transform, not losing the aspects of what it is that, again, I heard I like about myself, right? Like, because when we're talking about, say, like our friends coming and going, you know, things like that in life, well, that happens because it's supposed to happen. Maybe we changed our frequency, maybe we changed our self so much that we just don't vibe with those folks anymore, right? That could also be our family. I mean, and for some of us, it's even our children, right? Or, you know, like blood family, because we think sometimes that because... Well, say like for the mother, for example, you know, naturally speaking, we would think, well, oh, I'm supposed to have a really good relationship, a really balanced emotional relationship with my mother. She bore me from the fruit of her loins, right? Well, not necessarily. It all depends. We all have different... Are you okay? Good girls. You okay? 1 second. I'm gonna make sure the dog's just ate, and I felt like the old lady dog was choking on something, so just checking on her. Being motherly, right? And then I also heard, how do you mother yourself, right? Especially for those of you, whether your mother's just not around anymore or in whatever context, how do you care for yourself like that? How do you nurture yourself? Okay, and in that, the more that you nurture yourself, I see that makes your relationships with other people, particularly emotionally, more, more fulfilling, right? I do see that the mother still, for a lot of you, affects your ability to have kind of the exact relationships that you want, something about it, but you know what it is, and you know that you're solving it, okay? It has something to do with most of you. Your third and your second house are amplified here. As well as your 10th house, okay? So second, third, and 10th house are also amplified. But again, you already know that. Love you. Let's see. I see that some of you are kind of worried about like having a relationship or what it means to have a relationship. I see a lot of you kind of longing for some sort of intimacy in a way that doesn't involve pain. Like where the depth of emotion that you want to give is received, and definitely, and you know, where it's sweet and it's caring. It's not just sexual or sensual. It's like this is higher chakra, right? And also, you know, someone who I heard respects your body. Definitely. Like all parts of who you are, where you come from, your imbalances, if you will, at this time, and like kind of understanding who you are and understanding your pain. Okay, because the thing is it shows me here that you are starting to understand your pain, and where your friction comes from. This 5 of Wands, like, you know, I see that you're done with fighting, right? I also see you over the next 3 months specifically figuring out what the fight is within yourself. And I think this is the whole Leo North Node situation, but there's also like 6 heavenly bodies or heavenly stars that are in retrograde. Okay, so there's a lot of revisiting to, I see that your 10th house again is amplified, okay, which also represents the father. Tenth house also being Capricorn, which is the Devil card, and how do you feel because although you rule sex, Taurus rules sensuality, right? You're connected. I sense, to me, Capricorn also is about sex in a way, in the sense that it's like the darker aspects of sex and maybe negative, just kind of negative situations, or rather not positive situations that you've had in relation to you and your body. Like when you finally have exposed yourself, right, male or female, like You've exposed, this is your heart. You know, this is showing me, well, there's a chakra above your heart chakra, but technically, I mean, I think that they're all over your body, but this is your heart chakra, your root, and your sacral, right? Which, you know, how do we combine the lower chakra with the heart chakra? You know, and how do we heal, I heard, what it is that has happened, particularly like when we were growing up, okay? And how comfortable we feel in our home. This is Cancer season, this Four of Wands. It's like, how much can we submerge ourselves in our own emotions about who we are and where we come from, and how accepting are we of that those karmic lessons, right? And when we stop letting the past's sort of energy push us into the future, and just understanding that step by step we'll get to the top, right? And when we do, we can just turn into a bird and fly wherever we want. You know, easy as pie, because that element is simple for you, then it becomes easier, right? That's when the friction of whatever it is that we gained psychologically from our families can be ultimately released, okay? And part of that also is about you pleasing yourself and having a really healthy sexual relationship with yourself, okay? It's so important, you know, especially because there is a thing called sexual healing is real. Marvin Gaye was on it, you know? I mean, it's not necessary to heal that in that way, but it can be that way, right? And if we aren't receiving that from others necessarily, well, how do we do that with ourselves, right? How do we, because that is healthy. You want to make sure that, sure, the root chakra is lower and it's more base kind of, you know, it's money, it's security, it's sex, blah, blah, blah. But it also is a part of the whole. So we have to be, you can't just ignore things because you don't want to, I heard, want to deal with them, right? Because all the elements, earth, air, fire, water, right? They're all really important. We have those all within us, and we need to be aware of how those are affected. And I see that your strongest element here is air, okay? And so it's the mental realm. Because I mentioned 3 so much, that's also Gemini. And so that's your communication. It's your like your communities, your small, like tighter knit communities. It's also your siblings, okay? In relation to, I see the sibling aspect, there's something about a longing for that also. Something about it where you still have some pain attached to the emotional contracts that you signed up for or were given in this life. Although, again, you understand it in a sense, but it still saddens you some. But you're starting to understand the value of that, of those experiences and of that pain, and putting it forth in a way of, instead of seeing this as, oh, I must destroy this, I must kill this, I'm death, right? I want a brand new thing. It's like holding on, like I said earlier, to the aspects that you like, but it also could be aspects that, because we never truly rid ourselves of our past, but what we can do is use those as foundational points to building new things, right? I also see the pain that you've endured is actually a way that you, when you make money, it has something to do with that, okay? It's something to do, it gives you creative passion, right? It gives you a really sharp mind, right? Because you're able to view something, you're like, I know what that is, right? And again, you're no longer seeing it as a I heard a foe, or a failure, but seeing it as, oh well, Now I'm more experienced. Right? Because swords are heavy, okay? And then I heard the sword, the pen is mightier than the sword. So maybe because it's, I was talking about Gemini and communicating, etc. Your third house, it's maybe writing would be really important. Particularly, there's a lunar eclipse that's come, full moon eclipse, total eclipse, coming up the 27th or the 28th, depending where you are, in July. Okay, so it's important for you to know what those imbalances I was talking about before, and what other people are actually starting to, well, I heard praise you for, but also it's about acceptance and respect, okay? And that in itself is because you are gaining more acceptance and respect in who that you are. And I heard knowing again that your past does not define you, Scorpio, okay? You can take whatever parts you want of you and of your past into the future if you please, but it's all up to you and what you take. But I see specifically, because you have, again, more air here than anything, thoughts are heavy, okay? And I thought of that, I just heard that L7 song, Bricks Are Heavy. Do you know that? I love L7. I used to, when I used to have a cassette player, tape, I had a Walkman, and I would listen to that, walk around in the winter and like yell at the top of my lungs. I didn't care who heard me, and I don't think I'm no Etta James. But that's the kind of thing, right? Just doing you, but not being ashamed of who you are, because who gives a shit? Which, the majority of the time, you don't care. But I think that part of what makes you care is there's still old pathways in your brain sometimes that put you into an emotional funk. But the emotions are up in your head. It's like if you could just... And they have to do with your one-on-one relationships. It could be with Uranus in your 7th, in Libra's house too, generally speaking, just something that you're going to be moving through, right? And accepting, like, some of these contracts are just over. My contracts with people are revolutionizing, okay? I'm rebelling against them, but I'm rebelling against them in a really positive and productive way, okay? Let's do some, I have these really cool astrological cards, but before I do that, there's a message about, Pisces kind of got this too, where you only have this body in this life, okay? It's the only one you get, so you get a new one. So you kill this one off, right? And then you get a new one. But in saying so, I see that, again, it shows me the message of having a healthy sexual relationship, intimate relationship with yourself, with your own body, okay? Also, as a side note, like, you don't have to orgasm, but, like, having that sort of chi actually rotate fully through your body is very energizing, okay, if you can do it in a really centered way. And understand that it's not necessarily about sex, it's about the transference of energy from your root chakra all the way to your crown and back down, right? Particularly keeping it, like pushing it up and down into your navel area and your solar plex, between your solar and your sacrum, is a really powerful place, okay? It's where your creativity comes from. It's where your inner child lives and your self-will, right? Like, I can do whatever. I see some of you don't like your moon placement. Well, you can't do anything about that, technically. Let's go with this for a second. If that's the case, well, you need different expectations about, this is also Cancer, okay? Like, you need different expectations to, and I heard acceptance to, well, the moon also represents the mother. The moon also represents your mind. Okay, how you think about things. So wherever your moon is, and particularly females should always watch the moon first because you are female. I mean, we're all male and female, but we're not getting into that. The point is that you can't change your moon sign, but you can change your mind. Okay, and you can change your emotions and the way that you feel about the pain that has been like put upon you in the past from people who didn't realize how their actions would affect, maybe, of course it affected that moment, but there's something about, and I see it with the moon being the mother too, where, and some of you could have like a powerful mother, but that didn't, how do I want to say it? They were really stubborn. They're really stubborn, and they didn't have the mentality to understand how their actions or lack thereof affected way in the future. Okay, like the ripple effect. They didn't consider throwing that boulder into the puddle of life, of your life, whatever those actions were. And I see 3 of them specifically, and you should think about those. What are the 3 things that you feel like that your mother did that you still are fucking pissed about? That you still want to, your tail coils up, right? Or whatever, it's not coil up, that's interesting. You're a snake too, but that where your tail comes up and you're ready. As soon as you think about it, you're like, oh, I'm still mad. There's something about, and of course, what is that? When you're mad, you're afraid. And you're afraid because you weren't being nurtured, right? Your mother didn't teach you how to care for yourself, maybe, and care for your own body because she probably didn't care for herself or her own body. Now, of course, this isn't for all of you, but this message is important, okay? Now, I see also that the lunar eclipse in Cancer season, although it will technically be Leo by the time July 27th comes around, well, I see that that's really important. Look at this one. This 6 of Cups in this deck is Scorpio, Mars, and Pluto amplified by the Sun. That's very, very, that's beautiful. That's strong. Pluto and, aren't Pluto and Mars both in retrograde now too? And Jupiter. And Saturn. And I feel like is Neptune in retrograde too? Not sure. And I believe that Venus will be soon. Very interesting. So you can look those up. There's supposedly 6 of them. Mercury will be as well. Maybe, I think Mercury's going retrograde, don't quote me on this, the day before the lunar eclipse. Let's see about this moon. Princess of Cups, that's the page. 9 of Batons, which is Sagittarius and Jupiter amplified by the moon. Very interesting. Ace of Cups. Let's look at that. Ooh, Justice on the bottom. Awesome. There's you, the snake. Now, this full moon eclipse, okay, a total eclipse in Aquarius. You direct your life. Nobody else. You. You direct your life, Scorpio. You determine the pace that you go. I see, it shows me that you need to not, it says don't give up. Okay? Don't give up on the creative projects that you're creating. If you end up against the wall, it's sort of a test to be like, can you see this as a blessing? Or do you see this and like, oh my God, this is incredibly emotional. But like, what can I do? How can I creatively handle this? How can I creatively express this? Okay? Particularly, I see water and fire here strong, okay? So it shows me that this lunar eclipse can take the fire that's inside of you that still burns you, like the anger, the fucking, I just hurt my hand. I squeezed it so hard in my nails. Whatever that fire is, okay, that still hurts, you can use this water to chill it out, okay? I also see that anywhere that you feel like your feelings are singular or not as deep as you want, right? Your Scorpio, it's water season right now. Well, then I see that, again, you make the decision to heat up that, use your energy and the direction of your life each moment of not giving up, right? If you're doing it for the positive, then you can take that energy and make sure your mind's in the right space, right? Because the air, you need the air to make the fire. That heats up the cauldron of your emotions, therefore changing the direction of your life, of every day, day and night, right? You do that. You do that. You're a powerful being. You know? You're so creative. You're so loving. You're fucking tough too, right? 9 of Wands. But look, it's the tree of life. The only one we're missing here is the one that comes from God. But we have to turn the 9 of Wands in reverse to be able to see that we're missing. That's the one piece that we're missing. Is what it's like when we have the 9 of Wands, what we're actually saying is, and this is interesting, I've never seen this way. What we're actually saying is that we're forgetting about the blessing of wherever it is that we came from was granted from God. That's sacred, right? That's just the way it needed to be to make this structure. And now you determine down on Earth, this is where Saturn usually lives, okay? It's the earthly realm. How do you deal with that, okay? Because Jupiter's going to be coming into Sagittarius, at least in Western astrology, right? After it leaves your sign this fall, this autumn, where I live anyway, in the end of November, you know, that's what part of this test is like how much of a blessing, because goodness gracious, Jupiter in Sagittarius, Jupiter loves being in Sagittarius. It's its own sign. I mean, of course, there's challenges to that, right? But it all depends. This test is like, how stable are you and grateful are you? Do you feel like you only have one and you're like bummed out? You know, look at that horse. I feel like it's not really that happy, right? It's not like in a pasture. It's like on all this hard stone. There's something about this green coat that's more, this color too. There's something about either wearing that color or having more plants around, something like that, okay? Because I know in a way, it's like you have to figure out what it is that you have, be grateful for that, ultimately, right? None of that, all that whatever that anger is, not you can't keep that fire to protect yourself for later, but like knowing that it's not about, oh, I only have this or this, that kind of mentality, whatever this is. It's like, oh, look at this. Isn't this a cool pen? Actually, I love these pens, right? I don't need 20 pens. I just need one to ensure that I can write down what it is I want to communicate, right? The tool to communicate. This is a tool to communicate, the communication tool. Communication toolbox. I like that. What's in your toolbox? All right. Happy July. I hope you have a nice one. Thank you for being here. By the way, thank you for everyone being on this path, you know, being all together and so supportive of one another, and I really appreciate that, you know. All the people I've been connecting with is so cool. I feel really blessed about it, so thanks. You know, one for fun. They're pretty happy. Should think about your positive physical relationships that you had with people, whatever that means, right? Whoever hugged you, that like that family member that did actually hug you, that loved you, you know, that partner that you had, that you felt really comfortable with sexually, you know, like intimately speaking, when you were nude, when you were vulnerable, exposed, your friends that accepted you, stuff like that. It's important to focus on what the positive was, and also recognize, again, wherever that negative is, so that on that eclipse you can release it, okay? If you know exactly what that is, well, K2 will help you say sayonara, which will make life so much easier to get rid of this devil and this Ten of Swords, okay? Break it more down into the Three of Wands and Justice. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Ten of Cups in the Moon. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Communicating positively. Six of Wands, Eight of Wands. Yes. Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords and this wonderful idea. What are these ideas you want to do? What are these creations you want to make? Every day is an opportunity to create. So, good luck with that. Talk to you in August, okay? Peace.